The courtroom was quiet, except for the soft tapping of shoes and the rustle of papers. A teenage girl stood near the defendant's table, her hands calm, her expression focused. Across the room, a uniformed officer smirked, clearly amused by her presence. He leaned over to a colleague and whispered something, chuckling under his breath. To him, this was just another routine case, and she was just another kid out of her depth. But what he didn't know was that this teenager wasn't here to plead. She was here to prosecute. And she wasn't just smart, she was brilliant. It all started with a traffic stop that should have ended with a warning. Instead, it spiraled into a confrontation, one that exposed something deeper. An officer quick to judge and a system that often looks the other way. But this time, things were different. This time, the young girl he laughed at wasn't going to stay silent. She had studied the law, knew every detail of the case, and had one mission: to make the truth heard. As the hearing began, the officer's laughter faded. His confidence started to crack when she began to speak, calmly, clearly, and with undeniable authority. Every word she spoke peeled back a layer of his actions, and with each point she made, the courtroom leaned in, stunned. But just when it seemed like she had everything under control, a new piece of evidence surfaced, one that could change everything. Was she ready for what came next? Or had the case just taken a turn no one saw coming? Stay tuned, because what happens next is nothing short of unbelievable. Her name was Maya, and at just 17, she was already making waves in local youth legal programs. Homeschooled by her aunt, a retired civil rights lawyer, Maya had spent most of her childhood surrounded by books, courtroom transcripts, and legal debates over the dinner table. She wasn't your average teen. While others were preparing for prom, she was preparing case files. What brought her to this courtroom wasn't just ambition, though. It was personal. 2 months earlier, her younger brother had been stopped while riding his bike in their neighborhood. The officer, the same one now sitting across from her, had accused him of theft without any solid evidence. There were no charges filed in the end, but the damage was done. Her brother was shaken, scared to leave the house. That moment lit a fire in Maya, one that led her to dig into the officer's past, and what she found raised more than just questions. There were reports of similar incidents, all brushed off or buried in paperwork. Minorities being stopped, questioned, sometimes even detained without proper cause. No formal complaints ever stuck, until now. Maya had gathered statements, found patterns, and even uncovered inconsistencies in his own reports. But what really gave her leverage was a body cam recording, one that mysteriously hadn't been submitted with the original police report. And now, just hours before the court appearance, a new clip surfaced from an anonymous source. It showed part of the incident with her brother, footage that contradicted the officer's official statement. But who leaked it, and why now? As Maya waited for her turn to present, her heart raced. The courtroom might see her as just a girl with a file, but she knew something they didn't. This case was far from over. The judge glanced at the clock, then back at Maya, signaling it was her turn. She stepped forward slowly, her eyes steady. She wasn't just there to speak, she was there to be heard. With every word, she challenged not just the officer's report, but the unspoken bias behind it. The truth, she said, doesn't hide in paperwork. It shows up when you ask the right questions. The courtroom shifted. People leaned in. Even the officer, who had started the day laughing, now sat stone-faced. But this wasn't just about one case. Maya had uncovered something bigger. As she presented more evidence, a pattern began to form: names, dates, and nearly identical statements from different individuals, all tied to the same officer. One was a delivery driver who had been stopped for looking suspicious. Another, a high school teacher questioned while walking home. All had stories that seemed too similar to ignore, and somehow, each incident had been dismissed without review. Now, it was all being laid bare, piece by piece. Meanwhile, outside the courtroom, news of the leaked bodycam footage was spreading. Social media picked it up fast. Activists, legal experts, and even a few journalists began asking questions. Where did the clip come from? Why was it missing from the case file? And who was protecting this officer? Back inside, Maya's calm started to crack just slightly when the officer's attorney raised an objection. He questioned the credibility of the footage. He questioned her. "She's not even a licensed attorney," he said loudly, hoping to discredit her. But Maya didn't flinch. Her hands stayed steady on the podium, even as doubt tried to creep in. The courtroom was split, some rooting for her, others skeptical. But what no one knew was that someone else was watching the trial closely, and they weren't just interested in the verdict. The courtroom buzzed with quiet tension. Whispers passed between rows as Maya stood firm, refusing to let the officer's lawyer shake her. She couldn't legally practice, that was true. But she had been granted special permission to represent the case under the court's youth advocacy program. And by now, even the judge could see she had done her homework. Her evidence was solid, her questions sharp. Her voice never wavered. Still, pressure was building. The leaked bodycam footage had been submitted for review, but it hadn't yet been verified by the court. Without it, Maya's case leaned heavily on witness accounts and inconsistencies in the officer's own reports. The officer sat with his arms crossed now, no longer laughing, but not backing down either. His defense team began to push back hard, casting doubt on the reliability of the witnesses, claiming the accusations were nothing more than a coordinated attempt to smear a good officer's name. Maya's hands were cold. She'd spent weeks preparing, collecting evidence, interviewing people who had never spoken out before. But now, as the weight of the case pressed down, she realized something. This was bigger than any trial. It was about how power is used and misused, about how silence protects the wrong people, and about what it takes to be heard when the odds are stacked against you. Then, just as she was about to present her closing argument, a court officer entered the room, whispering something to the judge. The judge nodded, looked up, and addressed the court. A new file had arrived. A second bodycam recording, one that no one had seen yet. Maya felt the air shift. Eyes turned toward her, waiting. Whatever was on that footage could change everything, or it could bury the case for good. The judge reviewed the new file in silence, flipping through pages quickly before glancing at Maya. "This video will be admitted into evidence," he said. The courtroom held its breath as the clip began to play on the overhead screen. The footage was shaky, clearly from a second officer's bodycam, one who hadn't been listed in the original report. But what it showed was something no one had prepared for. In the video, the officer who stopped Maya's brother wasn't alone. A second officer had stood nearby, watching the encounter unfold. He never intervened, but more importantly, he was the one who called it in. In the background, his voice could be heard quietly saying, "I don't know why we're stopping this kid." The words were low, but clear, and they were enough to destroy the defense's claim that everything was by the book. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. The officer's lawyer quickly stood, demanding the clip be reviewed further before being considered as evidence. But it was too late. The narrative had shifted. There was now undeniable proof that even another cop had questioned the stop, and the name on that second badge, Officer Daniels, a name Maya had come across before but couldn't place. Now she remembered. Officer Daniels had filed a quiet transfer request just weeks after Maya's brother was stopped. No explanation, no complaint, just a sudden move to another district. It didn't make sense then. It did now. Maya looked at the judge, then at the officer across from her. His expression had changed. Not just annoyed, nervous. Something else was hiding beneath the surface, and Maya could feel it. But just when it seemed she had all the pieces, her phone buzzed quietly in her pocket. A message from an unknown number. Asterisk, "You're not ready for what comes next." Asterisk. Her blood ran cold. Maya stared at the message, her hands gripping the podium as her mind raced. The courtroom buzz had faded into the background. Who had sent it? And what did it mean? She looked around, but no one met her eyes. Then the judge called the court back to order. "Miss Carter," he said, "you may proceed." Taking a breath, Maya stepped forward. "Your Honor, the second officer's body count confirms what we've been arguing all along. This wasn't a lawful stop. My client was profiled without cause, and the original report left out crucial facts." Her voice stayed steady, but inside she was bracing herself. She still didn't know what was coming. The defense tried to object, but the damage was done. The judge had seen enough. After a tense pause, he ruled in Maya's favor. The court found the stop unlawful, and the officer's actions officially under investigation. A wave of relief hit her. She had done it. She had exposed the truth in front of the very system that tried to ignore it. Reporters gathered outside the courthouse. Maya's name started trending, not just as the teen genius attorney, but as someone who stood up when no one else would. The officer was placed on leave pending a full review. People were calling it a small but powerful step forward. But the twist came that night. As Maya walked to her car in the empty courthouse lot, a man approached her slowly. It was Officer Daniels, the one from the second body cam. He kept his distance and didn't raise his voice. "There's more you didn't find," he said. "This case, it goes deeper than just him. He was following orders." Maya froze. "Whose orders?" she asked. Daniels didn't answer. He handed her a sealed envelope and walked away. Inside was a list of names, and at the top, a judge she'd seen in court just that morning. Maya sat in her room that night, the envelope still open on her desk. The list of names revealed a deeper network of silence. Officers, court clerks, even a local judge, all tied to a pattern of wrongful stops and altered reports. The judge who ruled in her favor, he wasn't on it, but one of his close colleagues was. It explained why certain complaints vanished, why evidence was sometimes lost, and why so many voices went unheard. She knew she had a choice. Walk away now, satisfied with the victory she'd earned, or take the risk of going further. But Maya never entered this fight just for one case. She typed up a report, backed everything with dates, video clips, and transcripts, and sent it to an independent legal watchdog group. She didn't trust the system to police itself anymore. Over the following weeks, an internal investigation was launched. The leak of the second body cam footage sparked broader questions about evidence handling across the department. Officer Daniels, who had stayed silent for too long, agreed to testify, and the officer who laughed at her in court, he quietly resigned before formal charges were filed. Maya returned to school, not with a spotlight, but with a quiet confidence. She still wasn't a lawyer on paper, but she had done something many adults never dared to try. She challenged a system and forced it to look at itself. Her brother smiled again. Their neighborhood walked with more ease, and while the list of names haunted her, it also reminded her why she couldn't stop now. Because sometimes, the smallest voice in the room isn't the weakest. It's just the one no one expected to speak, and when it finally does, everything can change.